or started off at Penn State, Greater Allegheny, and then transferred to Carla. She majored in business management with a minor in philosophy, and she currently works for marketing. Well, she's currently a marketing coordinator at RK&K in DC, and also a founder of At First Glance Solutions. And lastly, Abby Lutton. She graduated from Penn State. She majored in economics. She currently works with the Allegheny County Controller, and her current position is the Executive Administrator. So I'm going to go and ask them a few questions and let them tell their stories and how they got to where they got. And you all can feel free to muster up some questions in your mind, jot them down so you don't forget, and ask them when you're ready. So the first question is, some of them were already mentioned in the introductions, but what do you do? Why did you choose your career? And what is most enjoyable about your career? Who would like to go first?
I'll start. Okay. So I am a marketing coordinator at a transportation firm. So I do all of the rallying the engineers to get them to tell me what they're trying to do so I can translate that into regular English. Very, very difficult, just so you know. And then I also, on the side, I do consulting, business management and development for minority firms. So I can allow access to, how do I say this? So I can provide access to larger opportunities for minority business owners. And I started that because I have a passion for helping people and gaining, just helping people to get back up to where they need to be. There are so many things that people are not aware of that they need to be aware of, and I try to bridge that gap. So that's what I do with both of my jobs, full-time and part-time.
So my title is Associate Director. Essentially what that means is Major Gifts Officer. So I'm a fundraiser for Carnegie Mellon University, and before that I was the fundraiser for the University of Pittsburgh at Hillman Cancer Center. And I didn't really purposely choose fundraising. I kind of fell into it, which a lot of people kind of tend to do with that field. It's pretty interesting. But it's a really incredible field, and when I started working at Pitt as a temp employee in the field, and I did that so I could eventually get hired full-time at Pitt and go back to school to get my master's with tuition benefits. After getting the Pittsburgh Promise, I wanted to keep up the not paying full tuition for college thing. But I realized that fundraising could be a field that I could actually do full-time, so I ended up moving up from there, and it's a really great field if you want to make a difference in a way that you might not have thought of. So at Carnegie Mellon, we raise money for student-led initiatives. So I'm working with parent prospects. So I actually travel the country, meeting with parents of CMU students and talking with them about how they want to be engaged with the school. So sometimes that's through philanthropic support, and other times it's through internship opportunities for students or adding jobs at their company for graduates. But you get to meet a lot of people that really want to make a difference, and the work we do is important. So the fund that we raise the most money for is our Parents Fund, which is for student-led initiatives. If a student wants to go to a conference and fly over there, the dean of that school can allocate money from that fund for that student to go. Or if there's an emergency and they need to go home and they don't have a way to pay for it, they can talk to the school about that. So it's a really cool field that you're kind of working behind the scenes, advocating for students. Or when I was working at Hillman, I was advocating for cancer research funds and patient care funds. So it's a really great field where you can make a tremendous impact, and it's enjoyable because I get to meet a lot of really great people and just make a big difference. So it's a really cool field.
So I work for Chelsea Wagner, the Allegheny County Controller. I am her Executive Administrator, which kind of wraps two jobs into one. I'm essentially her assistant, but then also an office manager. So running staff meetings and making sure that products within the office are also coming out on time. I came into this position from an internship. I got an internship as an analyst. Since my background is in economics, they were working on the lead water issue. I came into the office, did some data work with that, and then got hired full-time. And I've been there since May of 2017. So about 2 to 3 weeks after graduation is when I started my internship, and then moved from there to full-time in September. It's definitely an interesting job. I get to meet a lot of people. I was just at a conference recently on infrastructure and met a lot of people from all over the country. So that gives me a nice opportunity. But then outside of my day job, I also work for a political action committee to get women elected. So that is another aspect of being in a political office. I get to make connections with all kinds of women all over Western Pennsylvania that are trying to change the political atmosphere. So that's also a big part of what I do.
Hi everybody, excuse my tardiness. That is not part of any advice I would give for anyone here. My name is Janelle Young, and I'm actually self-employed. I'm an artist, I'm a painter, which is a little bit of a different and interesting field to be in. So I work on a lot of public art, even though I do practice private art as well. So doing commission work, custom work. So that's anything from like painting on canvas to painting on sneakers to public art, which is more like murals that you see across the city. So a little bit of how I got into this field as a career path. I've kind of been, artistic my whole life, but I did not plan on being a professional artist. I don't think so. I think when I was younger, I had this idea that one day I would be an artist, but I didn't think it would actually be in this way. So to kind of back up, I took a job right out of college as a digital and social strategist at an agency. So I spent about 5 years in the corporate world, and my job was to liaison with the creatives. So I was, bringing brand strategies to life by working with graphic designers, by working with web developers, animators, things like that. And I got in this position where I was a senior digital strategist. I had worked my way up from an intern to full-time to a senior digital strategist, and I was like, wow, I'm managing all these creative people, but I want to do the actual creative stuff. So then, I was actually doing this in New York City, so I was surrounded by a lot of other creative people as well, and they were all, kind of on their journeys with their side hustles, and so I started doing art shows and things like that. I kind of just got wrapped up in this art world, and then about a year and a half ago, I decided to go full-time into my art, and that has opened up a lot of doors. So really, at this point, a lot of my job is working with different communities to work through designs for public art, to get their ideas, to get their input, different residents who live in the area, what do they want to see go up on the side of a building. Having them come out and paint with some of the artists who are working on a project. So I work with teams a lot of times for really big projects. So just having people come out, and what does that look like? How do we, make sure people are involved? How do we make sure people like the art that's going up? And now I'm in a position where I'm working with the city to say, okay, this is the process of how we get this done. This is how we raise the funds. Maybe you have to apply for a grant. There's just a lot of different moving pieces, and that's kind of, the piece that I'm working through right now.
All right, the next question for the panelists is, what are some skills that helped you succeed in your career, either those that were learned in college or elsewhere? Some examples: creativity, leadership, social skills, negotiation, time management, emotional distancing.
So for me, I think having the background in psychology and listening skills was a really good one for fundraising specifically. So I'm doing a lot of meeting with potential donors and listening about what their passions are, and then trying to connect what their passions are to what they can actually do at the university to make an impact. So listening skills are really important, as well as just communication in general. So being mindful of how I'm communicating, how I'm wording things in emails and in phone calls when I'm trying to get visits with folks, as well as some other skills I think that are really important. Writing. So there's a lot of writing skills that you need when you're reaching out constantly. You need to kind of think of, how do I say opportunity in like another way, or you're always writing with proposals and different things like that. So those are two really important skills that helped me. I'm sure there's more, but those are the three that I'm thinking of next.
For me, I would definitely agree writing is a big part of it. And along with the communication, I would say just how to present ideas to people. No matter what field you're in, whatever job you have, you're going to have to present your ideas. And being able to do that in a way that's visually pleasing is so important. You could have the most grand idea, and if you don't have good formatting, or it's just like the words are too small, or the font is too this, or whatever, they might get overlooked. For me, I think, and for me as an artist, like I don't think I've seen a lot of creatives who have the skills, who write really, really well and present those ideas really, really well when you're literally pitching your idea or yourself to someone. And it's I think it's something that people shy away from, but I think you can definitely learn that in school and out of school. And I learned a lot of my pitching strategies at my agency. And I would also say time management is huge, especially if you ever want to be self-employed. People think, oh, you can take off whenever you want. I'm like, I work more now than I did when I was working 13-hour days in an office. Yeah. So I think those are two really important things.
I would agree with all of those. Time management, totally important. I would say that the most important thing that helped me is like strategic planning. With all of the skills, the essential skills, the communication skills, the writing skills, is strategic planning, because even if I did have a blueprint of whatever I wanted to do, whatever job that I had, if it didn't work out in real life, I still had something to fall back on. If the situation with a person that I thought was going to help me exceed to the next point in my career, if it didn't happen, I had something to fall back on, and I was going to go back to that and reboot and how I can plan something else. It's a multitude of technical skill and essential skills. It's who you are, your personality. How are you going to apply that? Because my strategic plan isn't going to be yours. You have to really figure out what your value add is to whatever you're about to do, and figure out how to multiply that. And how are you going to, it's a puzzle piece, right? Because most people try to get you to be boxed in and fit this script by a job description. That might not be you, but that's okay. You can totally figure out what you can do out of that and bring that forward, and that might be all right for you to pass through for your career. And that's what I did in most of the things that I do.
So it's kind of obvious, mine. So organization is my biggest skill set, and why I'm in the position that I am right now. As an intern, I showed the group that I was able to be as organized as I needed to be her assistant. It wasn't a pathway that I wanted or thought could be for me, but just being organized and being myself in my current position led them to think she would be great at this. And then once in that position, I think being strategic with the people that are in your team. I work in a team of managers, but then also on our floor, it's a dynamic group of people. I think that's the best way to describe politics, is it's a dynamic group of people. So I'm working with our communications director, our social media director, our HR, our chief of staff, to really make sure that we are getting the points across that Chelsea wants across. So making sure that I play to their strengths and make sure that I am giving them the leadership that they need.
Absolutely.
All right. So now we're going to go to the social components of working not only for yourself, but through an employer. So what are
marketing, and the way that my organization or the industry is structured is the technical skills gets the billable work. The essential skills will be the first to go. So I'm a marketing coordinator. I bring in the contracts, I bring in the money, but if we lose the contract, my position's the first to go. So that's one of the biggest challenges for me, is to prove my value every contract, every time that we are going after a contract. I have to prove my value and make sure that I stay on the team. And I don't look like them. So I have to make sure that I'm secure in who I am and what value I add to the team, so I can stay in my position, because I'm a consultant, and that's really how it works. Your job is not secure. So you just have to make sure, I have to make sure that every step of the way, every job that I work on, that my value is made certain that I should stay on the team.
Go ahead.
So I lost my thought. That's awesome.
Okay. Do you want to go?
It'll come back.
I can go. Well, currently a big challenge for me, so I've been in this role for about 6 months, and I really wanted to work at Carnegie Mellon for a variety of reasons, but one of them was traveling for work. So I was really excited about that prospect of doing that, traveling on a company dime, and how fun it would be. But it's actually also a very big challenge, because you're away a lot. This summer I was away about 4 times in the past month, twice in the past week. So it can kind of be a little overwhelming. So I think that's being overworked is a common challenge no matter what field you're in. So like learning how to advocate for yourself when you need a break. Because I think that breaks are really important in allowing you to come back more creative, more determined, more energized. So it's a challenge to learn how do I talk to my boss about needing a day off, or working from home. I need to work from home, tomorrow, so that I can just recenter myself and come back more focused. So that seems to be something that I'm currently dealing with, and it's just, I'm sure it will happen in a lot of variety of fields. So learning how to advocate for yourself is really important.
I love that. I'm going to piggyback off of that. That's really great. I think it ties into my experience in corporate and working for myself. It's, for me personally, because I am a creative person, a lot of my burnout comes from like pushing out creative ideas over and over and over again. And when I was doing that with an agency, it was kind of like, I was working for clients who were like biotech and pharma companies in these really like red tape, rigid kind of fields. So a lot of your like big ideas that they want to see, they get cut down like over and over and over again until it's super diluted and watered down, and you're like, this isn't even fun anymore. Like, yeah, this isn't even my idea. Like, what this is, okay. So then you kind of have to take that in. You don't have to take it personally, but what that does to your creative spirit is something totally different, that you have to learn how to still nurture it, and still advocate for yourself. Like, okay, maybe I need to work on something else that has nothing to do with being creative, or being creative in a different way, maybe. And I deal with that being self-employed too. So, if I get 5 commissions in and I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm on a deadline to make up creative stuff now. Okay, like you can't really, it's something you can't force, but you do have to be disciplined. And so I guess to kind of wrap that full circle, yes, take time for yourself, because you're gonna need it. And 2, you will be able to come back more creatively, but also don't let that hinder you from continuing to put out your best ideas and your greatest ideas, even if they don't always turn out exactly how you planned.
I think one of the big struggles that I see in my office is I'm the young one. I'm only 24. The next person above me is 10 years older than me. So making my voice heard when we're in a group team setting can sometimes be a little difficult, and not getting you don't have the experience, you don't know what we're talking about. So making sure you're very aware and you know yourself, and you know that you have value in your opinions, and making those heard, and coming up with a way to really present yourself to the team. That's something that I've been working on. Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing because that's a really good point. For me, I'm in a situation where I look younger than maybe I am, especially like I don't really, I don't beat my face every day. I'm not wearing makeup all the time. Like I'm a painter, so I'm just kind of going out in like my t-shirt and my jeans or whatever it is. And a lot of times people just think that I'm very young. Like I literally get approached asking me like, oh, like did you graduate from high school yet? And I'm like, is this a joke? Like that makes me feel good, kind of, I guess. Like, oh, that's nice, I look young. But just really being able to like articulate yourself and show that you do know what you're talking about is so important because people tend to overlook you, especially if you're a woman. Maybe if you're a little more petite. That's
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was my next question, being that we have,
Dang it, what was I gonna say?
I mean, I think that's part of it probably for everybody on this panel. That's part of it.
So to add to that, I would say that your manager-employee relationship is a two-way communication street. Most people think that you're supposed to just listen and follow up what your manager says that you're supposed to do. You add value to the team. You have to figure out what feedback you need to push back on your manager. It's okay to say no. Don't be defiant. Don't be insubordinate. But definitely push back and express yourself. If they're saying something to you in a way that's not kosher and that's not going to motivate you, let them know that. Don't say it in a disrespectful way because you might get fired. And don't tell them I told you. I'm not in that. But I would definitely say advocate for yourself in a professional way and remember that it's a two-way street regardless. It's not just them telling you what to do. That way you can actually take control of your career.
I think you will find as you go through your career, like different stages, maybe it's different companies, maybe it's different teams, but you'll start recognizing what a good manager is because they start appreciating the pushback. And they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's a really good idea. Okay, let's see how we can work that into this. Or they will respectfully tell you, oh, this is why I thought it was this way because I've experienced it in this other situation.
Yeah.
So you'll start to kind of find that and feel that out, but yeah, don't be afraid to push back if you know in your gut that it's not right, or if you think maybe I should just explain to them why I think it should be this way. That's usually helpful.
So when Janelle mentioned about being a woman, that was my next question for you all. Sorry, males in the room.
No, this is for you too. So
This too, yeah, so you can understand our thinking process and what we go through on a daily basis, but I just want you all to mention how have things been going into your fields and being recognized as a woman, especially a woman of color too.
I think in my agency experience, it was very interesting because it was about 90% women, but I was the only one of color. So then it became this really strange dynamic that was like, oh yeah, there's only 5 men who work there, but they're actually the talking heads for everything, but there's 90% women working behind them, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And then I would often get looked to as like, the spokesperson for like all things ethnic and cultural, and I cannot speak for everybody. So it's definitely a challenge, but I think over time I built this rapport with the teams I've worked on and the managers I've worked with to really help them understand like who I am as an individual person and how I can help in the ways that I could and who I could connect them with to consult if that's what we needed. And then I also eventually did have really amazing women leaders on the teams that I was working on who showed me, it's okay to express this in this way and it's okay to stand up for yourself in this way, who had brilliant ideas too. So I think in that sense I had a really overall good experience, but just an interesting one to navigate. And then on the flip side, now as an artist, there are a lot of women artists, but I haven't seen a lot of them in high places. So like in museums and galleries, like it's hard to find. And then also I had someone tell me recently, oh, we're really interested in working with you, and so we checked out your website and we see that you're doing these murals on like these really big scaffolds and on the sides of buildings, and we've seen countless men do that, but I've never seen a woman do it. And I was like surprised actually, because that takes up a lot of my summers. So, you know, just, I think there's a lot of lessons in that. It's just one, learning how to navigate, two, maybe finding a mentor or somebody that just kind of is somebody by your side in your corner. And then also just like keep pushing the boundaries wherever you can and understand what maybe your limitations are. Like for me, not being able to speak for everyone. I think those were kind of a sum of my experiences so far.
So I'm kind of in a different position in my day job. So working for an elected official that is a woman, I am supported in a way that I know that a lot of other people are not. And I see that in the political sphere of the city. One of Chelsea's favorite lines is, Pittsburgh is stale, pale, and male. Because it is. They don't listen to women. They may be in the room, but they don't necessarily get a voice. So in our office, I don't really struggle with being a woman and not being heard. Maybe in the age idea, I do. I also sit on the board of a political organization with 14 other very successful women, so I definitely agree with what you said, that you need a mentor. You need another woman that'll tell you, this is how you get your way into these different groups of people, and make yourself heard.
So for me, in the engineering field, I have experienced a lot of like pushback because I'm a minority female and I'm from an underserved community. I'll answer questions that they feel like my white counterparts should be able to answer, and I get the response of, how do you know that? Aren't you from an underserved community? And it's like, why don't you know that? Aren't you from a middle class area? So I am more of a firecracker when it comes to people like having those situations, or I say nothing at all. I was in a meeting in North Carolina, and the office leader tried to tell me to move my seat now. And I just looked at him, said nothing because he didn't deserve a response. And I knew if I would have said something to him, that by the time I got back to Virginia, I wouldn't have had a job because his power in the company would have superseded mine. So there are times where I push back extremely, and there are times that I don't give people the time of day. So I've experienced that throughout my career, but that's why I had started this with, you have to understand who you are and the value that you bring, because people are gonna continuously tell you that you're not worth it. And if you believe them, then you're gonna like submit. So that's the biggest thing that I do in my career. And I have associations where I have mentors, and then I also have done therapy where I have a Black female therapist, and she tells me when we have conversations about where I'm wrong, because there are situations where when I am a firecracker, that it's wrong. So like, you need to accept that. So I have situations where people tell me where I'm wrong, or people tell me what I need to work through. And I suggest you guys do the same. There you go.
So with fundraising, it's a woman-dominated field, I think, but men seem to still be dominating in terms of like leadership roles. So that's a challenge. So I think trying to rise, like if leadership is important to you, being a manager is important to you. So for me, that is a goal for me. Eventually, so I'm just seeking out opportunities that I can lead and prove myself, and just, knowing that you might have to work a little bit harder, than others to get that. Another thing that I'm dealing with right now is that a big challenge is everyone kind of being like, oh, you're traveling for work. What about when you have a family? Which is like, okay, well, are you going to ask that to the guys? So that's a little, it's something that you just have to be confident in what you're doing and just advocate for yourself. And definitely, I know we're going to be talking about mentorship, but that is really important. When you see a strong woman or someone that's a strong prospective mentor to you, don't be afraid to ask questions that you're concerned about and talk with them, because that is really important.
All right, we have 15 minutes left. I do want all of you to give your final pieces of advice to the group of students. And also, I would like for you all to ask questions if you have them. So we'll start by each of you giving one major advice. I know there's a lot, but try to narrow down on one. And then we'll open the floor up to the students and alumni.
So my piece of advice is to utilize your resources. That's just, so whatever that means to you. So mentorship is a big one, but don't just, like whenever I was in school, we were supposed to be assigned mentors. And at one point, being a part-time student, I was passed over. I didn't get assigned a mentor. So I just kind of found one of my own, and that can be with anything. So my former colleagues I still meet with. Some of them were above me, some of them were equal to me, just because they're in equal positions, or even in something that you might consider under you, doesn't mean that they can't be a mentor somehow to you, or a cheerleader or coach. A professor that you admire, talk to them offline. Just try to utilize every resource you can, or is my recommendation. If you have a career, like with the Pittsburgh Promise coming to this, that's a great opportunity, and I think you guys made a great step by being here today and utilizing this resource, which is here to help you. So that's my piece of advice.
I'm gonna go on with fossil on you. Remember who you are. Remember why you started, and stick to that, and you'll be fine in your career.
Mine is going to be to don't be afraid to take a risk. If you're looking for your first job, don't be afraid to take something that doesn't fit exactly what you want. If you're looking for your second job, don't be afraid to take a pay cut. You don't know where you're going to end up, or how these steps along the way will help you get there. So if you think it's right for you, go for it.
That was gonna be mine. No, it's totally fine. I guess I would, to differentiate a little bit.
It's a
big piece of
advice. Marketing skills over
But I would just say, along with taking a risk, I would say don't be afraid to try something new. Like, don't let people box you in and say, nope, you're this one thing. So that's like literally when I was working at my agency, they just kept saying, oh, like I'll go to recruiters trying to look for the next job, and they say, oh, well, you work in pharma and biotech, so let's just find another healthcare firm. Nope, that's not what I want. I would like something more creative. I would like something outside of that. And it just got to the point where I said, I'll just figure it out on my own, but thank you. So don't be afraid to switch career paths. Like whatever your degree is in, don't be afraid to deviate from that if you figure something else out along the way. Just don't be afraid to switch industries. There are so many different ways that you can learn, and you can volunteer somewhere else. You can have, that mentorship relationship with someone where that can lead you into another industry, another path, just something moving forward. So, yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for your advice and your participation in this. And I do want to comment on Janelle's advice. I myself got an undergrad degree in interior architecture. As you see, I'm not doing that right now. So don't fear. It's okay if it's not something you really want to do. If you feel as though that you're not getting the push that you need behind what you went to school for originally, if you find something else that you love and passionate about, take that leap. So now I would like to open the floor to you all to ask any questions that you might have.
Were any of you intimidated by the experience you had in your career field post-graduation, and then how did you overcome that intimidation? And also, what advice would you give us to prepare prior to graduating?
Are you asking if were we intimidated in not having the experience?
Were any of you intimidated not having enough experience, feeling like you don't have enough experience.
Yeah.
I actually was gonna ask this eventually. I was gonna ask like how many people like have a job lined up or they know like where they wanna go when they graduate. Anybody? That's okay, that's great.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, no, that's impressive. Okay, so like I was the type of person who like I planned like everything and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do and this is what I'm gonna, you know, when I graduate, this is what I'm gonna, and like I did not have a job lined up when I graduated.
Me too, for 2 years.
And I was like, oh my God, what is this? So I was very intimidated by the market itself, right? But I knew I was the bomb. I knew I had the experience from college. I knew that I worked hard in college. You know, I knew what my peers were up to. I was like, I got this. Yeah, it took some months. It took a lot of interviews. And it even took me saying no, like turning down some things that I was, that were offered to me that I knew were not for me. So yes, I was intimidated, but I did not let that stop me. Like you really just gotta go back and be like, no, these are my qualities. These are my strengths. I know that I fit in somewhere. I just gotta figure out where that is. So I would say patience helped me a lot. You might need to do some meditation, okay? And just, I would say keep talking to people who are gonna be an inspiration to you. That's it, you just gotta keep your circle positive.
To add on to that, I would say like whatever information you get from your circle, figure out what works for you. Don't just try to like be a carbon copy of them.
Yep.
For me, it took me almost 3 years to get a job outside of college. I worked at Children's during college and through like 2 years after. I graduated in December 2013. I didn't get a job in DC until April 2016. So I have turned down a whole bunch of jobs because the amount that you get paid at UPMC I did a unit coordination. I was getting paid like $14 an hour, and then the jobs that would have been in my field were trying to start me off at $9. I wasn't going back. That was not an option for me. So I had to leave Pittsburgh to actually get involved into my career. But it took me 2.5 years to decide what position was gonna work for me. And in the meantime, for that, I figured out a little bit who I was outside of the Pittsburgh environment. So I would suggest for you to travel a little bit just to see what the rest of the world is doing to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, and I think what do you do now during college? Really utilize the resources that your university or college has. Most schools have career offices that will help you do kind of a similar thing to what we're doing today. And even after you graduate, they will work with alumni forever.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to go to them, even if you have a job and you're looking for your next job. Go back to your university because they're constantly getting information on jobs.
And you can make too, like I know for me, like everyone's saying, I always had a plan when I was in school and I was gonna do all these things, but then I graduated and I ended up serving, being a waitress for about a year, which wasn't what I thought I was gonna do, but at the time I was like, well, I just wanna make money and like
Yeah.
this is making more money than what I could be doing. But find how you can, like what you want from that job, no matter what it is. If in waitressing, I was like, okay, my goal here is to become like a lead server so I can practice managing other people and have this skill that's still transferable to so many different things. So it's intimidating, I think, at first when you graduate because you feel like you have to do so much, but just take the time you need, do what feels right for you. I really liked your advice about sometimes you are going to take a job that's a pay cut,
Yeah.
but if it's better experience. I mean, there's been times where I've been promoted, asked for a raise that I knew I deserved, didn't get it, cried, but accepted the job because I knew I'm gonna get really valuable experience here and it will help me to skip a step next time, which was a big risk. It's not fun not feeling like you're getting what you're worth, but if you suck it up and you kind of do all of the work behind it, get that really good experience, then you can find something better.
Do you guys have any advice for like motivating yourself, especially through challenging or like drudgery or difficult times?
For me, reading helped. I don't know if anybody in here has read the book Grit. It's very good. That helped me just like push through my own thoughts and kind of reflect on those things. Maybe journaling too. Those are two things that really helped me. I don't really have a lot of close people to talk to. My brothers are like still in college, so they have no idea what's going on. Like I can't even talk to them. Like my siblings, no. This is not a thing. And also sometimes like your parents might not really understand. Like both my parents have worked the same job for 30 years, so like whatever I was trying to do was completely new to them. So yeah, I think I just found ways to motivate myself through other people, like reading, journaling, and traveling too. I love to travel, so do something fun for yourself.
I think the way that you motivate yourself is going to be different in different situations. So for me, the first hour of my day is mine. I read, I meditate, I exercise, whatever I need to fulfill myself to get through whatever is up near. Ahead for the day, that's what I do. So I suggest figure out what works, whatever you need to get through, figure out how you were motivated in the past and do that.
I think also surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. Meghan and I both are part of Promise Legacy,
You knew each other.
the Alumni Association.
I knew it. I felt it.
So we have meetings once a month, and we most of the time just get lost in talking about like what's going on in our lives. Having those people to kind of like bounce ideas off of, and just talk about like I hated work today, like it was terrible. That's helpful. It's helpful. And I have close friends from college that I travel to see, keeping that circle of people that are, you're close in age, close in goals.
I know for me, there's definitely been periods at work where I'm just completely unmotivated. So music motivates me. So sometimes I'll just be like, I'm just gonna listen to music for like 10 minutes or take a walk, and then I just kind of get recentered and can come back like more focused. And also quotes, So the one that really sticks with me is a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. So every time I'd be like, I don't want to do this thing, remembering, well, you're not going to grow if you don't just do what you're uncomfortable doing. And so that's kind of been a motivator for me too. But yeah, your goals are all going to be different. So just being mindful of what your goals are and making reasonable steps to get to those goals, and just staying true to yourself and remembering why you want to get there, and however that works for you to just stay true to yourself.
And accountability.
Yes, that's true.
We'll talk a little bit about being women in your careers and how you handle the prejudices you face there. I wanted to ask if any of you are LGBT and how that's affected your careers as well.
I am not, so I don't have a response, but most of my friends are. So, in general, I am very accepting of who people are, and I treat them how they want to be treated. So I have those open conversations of, like, what do you want to be addressed as? Or, how can I work best with you? If I say something, and I also have a conversation of, if I say something that offends you, you have to tell me, because I'm not in that mind state. So I don't intend to do it, but if I do, you have to tell me.
I have coworkers and co-board members that are. I'm not personally, but I think in the career space, if you are looking for a job, make sure that job has an atmosphere that is right for you. In that interview space, ask the uncomfortable questions, because you don't want to get into a job and then not be respected for who you are.
Yeah.
It may make them uncomfortable, but ask. How would you handle this situation? How would you handle that situation? Asking those questions in that time, I think, is really the best way to do it.
Yeah, going off of that, whenever you're interviewing for a job, interview the company too. You're not just going in there like, trying to get out of the mindset of like, I just really hope they pick me. Do you want them?
Yeah.
Make sure that they are a kind of company you'd be proud to work for. So I know at Carnegie Mellon University, they are a great place. And there's a lot of LGBT folks that are there. A lot of folks, we do training regularly. So a lot of people even put in their emails like, these are my preferred pronouns.
Yeah.
And people, I've never worked in a place where people are just so, like, this is who I am, accept it, and it's so great. It makes me happy every day. So that's my biggest piece of advice for that, is to interview your potential companies to make sure that they are a good fit for you.
Yeah, just find out what their values are and make sure they align. That would be my advice.
All right, thank you, ladies. Sorry for all of those who had additional questions. They'll be here. I'm assuming you're staying for the rest of the day. Okay, Janelle. No, I know it. I know it. Abby, Christina, and Megan. So whatever questions that you have for the ladies, you can approach them. I'm pretty sure they'll be open to answer your additional questions. Males, see the whole female panelist thing going on? When we ask you to be panelists, respond. Okay. But yeah, thank you all. Thank you, ladies.
All right, we have 10-minute bio break that we built in, and to move, our next part of the day is the workshops. Those are all going to be up on the second floor. So if you cross, you can go out this door, that door. Feel free to get more juice, more coffee,